your overall thoughts on the ripple effect that it will have moving forward here for the Oilers, and then ultimately what you thought of the deal and how underwhelming you found it.
Well, I mean, I think it speaks volumes to what Connor McDavid's all about. I know you guys talked about this on your show. I mean, he wants to win. He has shown his commitment to win, and he has made a sacrifice financially to allow Stan Bowman and that management staff to fill the lineup up with his best players possible to surround him with, to give him the best opportunity to win. The window is right now, though, for the Edmonton Oilers. You know, I had a chance to sit down with Stan Bowman, and I said, you know, this has got to be tough. You got to be probably the one team who comes into the season and it's Stanley Cup or bust. No one's going to say it's a great year we got to the final, or it's a great year we got to the conference final. You know, if the Leafs go 2 rounds and get into the 3rd round, I think people in Toronto, a large group of the fans will say, okay, they're going in the right direction. When you've been to the Stanley Cup final and lost the last 2 years, it's Stanley Cup or bust. And I think Connor McDavid really wanted to, you know, accentuate that point by saying, I'm ready to make the sacrifices. I'm going to bring everything I can. I see this group around me. I trust this group. And when you look at the group, what did Stan Bowman do, guys? He got rid of 7 players. One thing they all have in common, they're all in their 30s. The Skinners, the Canes, the Perrys, the Arvidssons. I mean, they made a point of saying we need to get a little bit younger. And I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive because last year they added all those guys. They added the Skinners and the Arvidssons. But I think they said, you know what, we ran out of gas a little bit. We looked a little bit slow by the final, and we needed to inject a little bit more young energy here. So I'm interested to see what the Oilers can do. Connor McDavid, the one thing I'll say from an Oilers fan standpoint, because there was a bit of chatter, will he leave? I just hope they appreciate, like, we're watching, you know, you played Gretzky, you know, you were in Gretzky's era, Kipper, and I mean, we're watching greatness here. We're watching an all-time great player, and sometimes I think that gets lost in the shuffle. And the fact that Edmonton can now say, well, whatever happens with McDavid in 3 years, you know, we had the first 12 years of his career, you know, in our home rink. They should just be incredibly appreciative and happy about that. And clearly the window is now for Edmonton, and let's see how the dust settles in the next 2 or 3 years. But right now, I still look at the Oilers as maybe the favorite to win the Stanley Cup, and I don't see why we wouldn't. And I know there's goaltending questions and other questions, but I still look at them and say, you have the 2 best players in the world, and you have a pretty good supporting cast, and they've been there. They've been right there on the precipice. Maybe this is the year.
It's also particularly salient, I think, to point out to people to appreciate it, not because like, oh, he's going to leave, but because when you go into a season going, cup is all that matters, you don't want to like not care about the season. There's 7 months of fun hockey ahead, you know, watching these guys, and obviously elite special players. So yeah, the Oilers going to be fun to keep an eye on. Part of the doubleheader you have tonight, Toronto's and Montreal. Wanted to get your thoughts on the Canadians, who set the bar high, got into playoffs, and they're saying they're not running from it, that it's, you know, they expect to be a playoff team, and that's where they're at. Are you concerned for them taking a step back, or do you like them to continue to build with some big additions in Dobson and Bolduc?
I mean, I love the moves they've made. I think Kent Hughes and that manager group have done a wonderful job. You know, and Marc Bergevin deserves some credit as well, because he stockpiled a lot of these draft picks that they've been able to parlay into some of these pieces, trading 2 of them to get Dobson. I'm incredibly excited to see Demidov, right? Like, that to me, he's electric. And all I hear is he's a rink rat. He stayed in Montreal. He trained through the summer. All he cares about is working out and playing hockey. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be really fun to watch. You look at him and Lane Hudson, and they're 2 like hockey nerds, essentially. So you have 2 of the most young, dynamic players in the league. You have Caulfield and Suzuki on the rise. Dobson, of course, looking to have a sort of a bounce back season after a tough year on Long Island last year. There's so many good young pieces here, and they're led by a coach with so much energy and such a great way of managing these young players. Where they need to figure things out is defensively, right? They gave up the most 5-on-5 high danger scoring chances in the league last year. You know, Sam Montembeault deserves a lot of credit. If it wasn't for him, you know, the Habs probably wouldn't have made the playoffs. He was that good last year. So I'm excited. They kind of strike me as must-see TV, the Montreal Canadiens. You know, are they going to, you know, have another 90-plus point season and be that team? I don't know. That Atlantic Division is incredibly tough. In fact, the sleeper pick I have, guys, I think we all did our predictions. I haven't actually seen the article come out on sportsnet.ca, but I'm sure I'll kind of turn some heads, because I predict the Ottawa Senators are going to win the Atlantic. I don't know. I'm all in on this Senators team right now.
Huge Allmark fan, eh?
Well, listen, Allmark is a great regular season goalie, and he struggled last year till December, and then he was the best goalie in the league. If you guys remember, from December to mid-January, he was amazing leading up to Four Nations.
Yeah.
If they can get 82 games of Linus Ullmark, or a full year, he's not playing 82 games, but a full year of Linus Ullmark, that Vezina caliber guy that they had in Boston. They had a full year of Dylan Cousins. They added Jordan Spence, a stealth move, a guy who was playing 17 plus minutes in LA, a very stingy defensive team. And then Stützle, Sanderson, Tkachuk. I mean, these are guys on the rise. These are young superstars. You know, Jake Sanderson might be, you know, really one of those guys you're going to talk about as a Norris candidate for the next 6-7 years.
He'll win it if they win the Atlantic.
There you go. And think about that. And, you know, that's how strongly I feel. They need a lot of things to fall into place, but I really, really like the trajectory of this team. And I like the makeup, and I like the depth up front. And I think they've done a good job of integrating the Claude Giroux and the Lars Ellers that they brought in this year. Like, they have a mix of veterans, and they have a bunch of great up-and-coming young players, and it's going to be exciting in Ottawa, I think.
Well, there's no question that you know exactly how you feel about the Ottawa Senators. Can you tell me exactly how you feel about the Vancouver Canucks?
You know, listen, it's a cup half full or a cup half empty. Can we all agree that everything that could go wrong in Vancouver went wrong last year?
Yes,
Can we all agree
absolutely. It was
Petey with, 45 points?
the longest burning tire fire in Canadian history.
It's almost like unheard of that guy would end up playing a season with under 50 points.
So we all agree it was horrible?
Yes.
And they finished 6 points out of the playoffs.
Right.
They finished with 90 points, 6 points out of the playoffs with everything going wrong. Only 5 times in the first 41 games of the season. So 5 times in the first half of the season did they have Demko, Pettersson, Hughes, and Miller all in the lineup together. And I understand the fights between Pettersson and Miller, and that whole thing was a whole nother issue on top of that. But my point being, they weren't healthy. They underperformed. It was a disaster, and they still came up with 90 points. So if Pettersson can go back to being Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, I don't think we have any doubts about him. Demko needs to stay healthy. I think there's some optimism to be had there. But again, we're asking for things to get back on track, and there's never guarantees in the NHL. So I love that team, though. I think it still, you know, can show who they really are, and I think this is going to be one of those years. Adam Foote has his work cut out for him, but I think he's that player's coach. In spending a little time with Vancouver, the guys seem to just embrace his style of coaching, and I think that was a big reason why they, you know, elevated him from assistant coach to head coach. He's been basically a mentor to Quinn Hughes. There's a great relationship there, and I think that's going to count for something on the bench. And if Demko again can go back to being the healthy Vezina caliber Demko, it changes everything for the Vancouver Canucks this year.
Well, it's crazy. You know, last year we had 5 Canadian teams in the playoffs. Vancouver and Calgary missed. Calgary actually tied for the last playoff spot, lost on a tie break. Canucks were just 6 points out. We going to get more than 5 this year? Can you 6, 7, DA? Have we ever done 7?
We've never had 7. That's unprecedented. I'm not sure we're going to get more than 5. It's also hard, right? You have 3 of them in the same division in the Atlantic. You have 3 of them in the same division in the Pacific. It's hard to get all those teams to matriculate through when you have, you know, the Vegases and the Tampas and the Floridas, et cetera, in those divisions. But, you know, I think 5 is a very realistic number. Which 5 it will be is yet to be determined. We talked a little bit about Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal. You know, they're all in the mix, but, you know, time will tell.
David, let's just go a little south of the border here and just talk about a few storylines that you're looking forward to. We watched Chicago play Florida, the Stanley Cup champions, and seemed like a pretty close game. I thought Spencer Knight looked good. Your thoughts on Bedard now going into his 3rd season, and do we have a better idea of what he is or what he could still become after this point in time, or is it just too early for sure to say, yeah, this guy will be good, but how great he'll be isn't what we projected maybe 3 years ago?
I know there's some detractors. One thing I'll say is his heart is where it needs to be. Everyone I've talked to said all he worked on all summer was his skating, which was his big sort of, you know, part of his game that needed some work. He seems like he's dedicated clearly to being the best version of himself he can be. He just turned 20 years old. Like, we keep forgetting. He's been in the league 2 full years, but he's just stopped being a teenager. So, I think I have the utmost confidence in Connor Bedard, and I think he's going to be that prolific 50-goal guy. Is that going to happen this year with the group around him? Probably not, but I could definitely see him taking a step to 35 to 40 goals. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And Nazar being this good, young, unheralded player, he finally maybe has a running mate there in Chicago, somebody can work with a little bit, because it's been hard. He's been a little bit on an island, and I think we can all agree Kyle Davidson, hasn't done a great job in insulating him. In a draft 2 years ago, when it could have been Demidov or could have been one of these other great offensive players, he kind of went with a more stay-at-home defenseman and Levshunov at the number 2 pick. And I do wonder 5 years from now how we're going to go back and view that 2024 draft, where it was Celebrini and then a group of players, and Demidov looks like he's going to, move his way to Celebrini status. But I wonder if that will come back to bite Chicago or not. And it's too early to know all these things, but it just would have been nice for him to have gotten a bit more of a running mate, someone he can really play off of. And maybe Nazar will be that guy this year for Chicago. So it's too early, Kipper, but at the same time, I'm still buying Connor Bedard. Are you guys not feeling it as much as I am?
I am. No, I am too. I think he gets skating.
I totally believe that you nailed it, that he is very capable to hit that between 35 and 40 range, which
this year?
Yeah, this year.
Oh, yeah.
And on this team, like you said, for me, the disappointing part is they don't even have he doesn't even have anything close to what maybe San Jose has already.
You look at Eklund there and Will Smith and who's the other young guy they got there? Yeah,
Celebrini.
Yeah, Celebrini with him though. I mean, they've got another one there too. I'm forgetting, but they they got
Michael Miza. They took second overall.
Yeah,
and he's gonna make his debut, I believe, tomorrow night. I think they're playing Seattle or someone. But this is the question. Chicago, you want to see them be a bit more aggressive, but I think when you have this player, what did he play? 172 games in junior or whatever, and scored 172 goals. And I know that's junior hockey. Kipper, you were a prolific goal scorer in North Bay. I get that, but we saw him at the World. Listen, we saw him at the World Juniors, right?
Yeah.
Like, set records.
Yes.
And against the best players in his peer group. I'm not giving up on Connor Bedard at all, and I think anyone who is prematurely doing that. They got to get him some guys who can think the game the way he thinks the game. He's still a one-shot scorer. There's not many one-shot scorers there. Guys who don't need to be given a ton of time and space. They just need the puck on their stick in a spot they're comfortable in, and boom, it's in the net. He's one of those guys.
So, DA, one thing I give you a lot of credit for, and I give you credit for many things, as a wonderful host, but one of the things is that you will make a real prediction, a bold prediction, whatever, and the Ottawa one is bold. No, listen, you liked Columbus a couple years ago. You put your money where your mouth is.
I've given you a lot of money.
You thought Quinn Hughes didn't get 100 points. It was very close that year. You're pretty good at this stuff. So when these predictions come out, are there any others that we need to know about that people are going to go, really?